Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to the John Carter Edgar Rice Burroughs month. Let's start at the beginning. Back in 1912, Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote the beginning of what could possibly be one of the greatest stories ever told by a mortal man. Anyways, A Princess of Mars. This is the very first in the John Carter saga, and one of my favorite books of all time, obviously. Not just because it's the beginning of the story that is John Carter, that will stretch on to, I believe, 10 books and countless comic books and magazines, and of course, eventually the Disney movie that we'll probably talk about later. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack for that one, but it is all part of the legend that is John Carter. I read this book probably two or three times now, and while this copy is incredibly beat up, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's absolutely amazing. I'm not going to go into the life of Edgar Rice Burroughs and all the lore, you know, on how he started writing and the history of his life. That's better left to people who've already done it. There have been countless videos and possibly even a movie or two about Edgar Rice Burroughs and all the wonderful stories he gave us. But this, as far as I know, was the very first thing that he wrote that became, big. And by big, I mean, you know, the movie came out in, I want to say, 2012. And the little guy and I went and saw it. We got to see it in 3D. He was only 3 years old, and the whole family absolutely loved it. But that was the 100th year anniversary. And if we think back to all the other stories, a good fan of the show recommended Jules Verne for some more really old classic sci-fi, but nothing that I can think of compares to this in its absolute boundless imagination. Obviously, the technology that was talked about in these books is been more or less debunked, and just technology just doesn't work the way Edgar Rice Burroughs thought it might. But if you get past that, all the other aspects of this story were just completely original, and to this day, very few things have come close without obviously copying or being highly influenced by it. And if I ever write a book, I hope to you know not copy so much from this, except for one aspect that I wanna go over. In all the books that I've read by Edgar Rice Burroughs, one thing is always prevalent, and that's the love story between the main hero and his let's just say wife to be, or in some of the stories, marriage isn't really a thing, so to speak. People just get together, if they stay together forever, and that's just it. There's no real wedding ceremony or any of that pomp and circumstance. Every one of the books I've ever read by him has always put that at the forefront. And recently, there's been a lot of talk amongst dungeon masters on YouTube about how they just absolutely stray away from the romance and the intimacies and things like that. And I want everybody out there watching, especially the dungeon masters and the players. I was thinking, if I was going to be a player in anybody's game, in the near future, that would be one of the things that I would zero. Session zero is, who's my character's love interest? Have I met that person yet? Is that going to be a thing? Do I have to figure it out along the way? Is there someone back home that my character's in love with? That sort of thing. And I really think, without getting too weird, you guys can all, follow Edgar Rice Burroughs, and even Robert E. Howard. He touched on it quite a bit, and some other authors I could go into, Zelazny and some of my other favorites. They don't shy away from it. Here you are, a writer telling a story, and to just just completely omit that, I think, is absolutely a huge mistake. I can't think of a better way to motivate a player character or a story, especially, for the fighters, if, they always tend to take the center stage of the games, put that in their path. In one story by Burroughs that I'm currently still reading for the first time, the princess, let's just call her, gets abducted and kidnapped probably more than a dozen times throughout the course of several books. I'm not sure how many books, but it just keeps happening and happening and happening. And the hero never once thinks, to himself, man, why does this keep happening? Why did I put myself into this position to fall in love only to have, my lady love just, constantly get abducted by the bad guy over and over and over again. I can't think of a greater trope and a greater way to motivate, at least one player in your party to, have to go rescue the princess. From as far back as I can remember, the dragon, one of the dragon's main activities was to capture the princess and lure the big tough fighter in to his doom, because he abducted, or she, whatever, the dragon abducted the princess, and now it's time for the big burly fighter to come in and rescue the damsel in distress. And you can switch it around, but I really don't think the female characters are going to be all that interested in, that sort of reversal sort of situation, but having the hero rescue the princess is part of, play. Even today, little boys and girls are always still doing that sort of thing, and I know times have changed, but I know out there are thousands, if not millions, of little boys and girls pretending to be rescued or the rescuer of from the big bad monster, to rescue the princess from, whatever, whether it's a cult, a demon, a dragon, a wicked prince, or something like that, like in The Princess Bride, and stories like that. So, guys, reconsider that. It doesn't have to get weird. It doesn't have to be awkward. You don't have to, describe anything other than, the absolute most basics. None of these books, by Burroughs and Howard and any of the other greats, they're never, Lust in the Dust books, modern romance stories. They're always classy and subdued when it comes to those sort of issues. And I think we should all really think about that again. How original would that be for your game to actually pull that out of your sleeve or your hat or what have you. I was thinking of something else, obviously. Where the player has to go do that. I bet in modern gaming that is one of the most rare occurrences, just because of the perceived awkwardness, etc. I can't even imagine what it would be like, to get to do that and to put that in a good story. I don't think I've done it in 30 years, if not more, where that was actually a thing where, the character had to rescue his betrothed, his beloved, whatever you want to call her, his love interest from some sort of peril. And, looking into the Dungeon Master's Guide for inspiration, I couldn't help notice how many stories Grey Mouser and Fafford and Conan and obviously John Carter here and many others where that was actually a thing. Let's try and bring that back without any of the perceived uncomfortableness that you might think would go along with that. There's really nothing wrong with it, and I hope you guys will put your thoughts in the comments section on what you think, not just about John Carter being, one of the greatest science fiction fantasy stories ever written, to have gone on to influence everything from, Dungeons and Dragons to Star Wars. But, let's bring a little bit of that romance back into the game and back into your stories, and see if you can't really, make it that much better. Because I know you guys can, and I'm going to do it the first opportunity I get. And with all that said and done, I'm going to jump back into these books at the first opportunity, because for me, this was absolutely one of the best reading experiences I've ever had. And I hope it is for you guys too, especially if you've never picked up A Princess of Mars. I hope you guys go out and can find a copy that doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. Maybe get one of the anthologies and dive right in, because it really is worth it. So until next time, we'll see you guys real soon. Have a great week. We love you. And of course, hit that like button on your way out. And if you haven't already subscribed, you guys know what to do. Talk to you real soon. Bye.